Egypt's education system has been witnessing several achievements within the past 9 years under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Education is positioned as a priority for Egypt's development by launching several initiatives in an attempt to solve the chronic educational problems and pay attention to upgrade Egyptian personality and a way of thinking. The initial steps of developing education were establishing the Egyptian Knowledge Bank, which is the biggest electronic library in the world, and making it available for the citizens for free. The government plan also included launching the new educational system and upgrading it from education to learning. As many as 2,500 electronic schools were prepared to fit in the new system via cooperating with several countries developed in education, including the US, Finland, and Singapore. Also, the Egyptian Ministry of Education has worked closely with the United States Agency of International Development to create 7 education reforms in Egypt. This is a $500 million reform investment, and its reforms stretch from kindergarten to secondary school. The 7 education reforms in Egypt include expanding access to early childhood learning, remedial reading programs, implementing learning villages, improving general assessment skills, revamping teacher training programs, and linking education and technology. Education in Egypt focuses on bringing children out of the learning poverty by focusing on vulnerable communities, retraining teachers, and giving students greater access to education through technology. Education reform is essential to the long-term growth and development of the country. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here tonight in the studio to shed more light on the educational sector and the progress that has been taking place by Dr. Nabil Ghed, the educational expert and professor of the English language at one of the private universities. Dr. Ghed, thank you very much for joining us.
Most welcome.
Dr. Ghed, first of all, before we start talking on a plan for the process of development of the educational sector. Now, over the past 9 years, the educational sector has seen a lot of reform, a lot of progress, a lot of development. Up until now, obviously, we went through a pandemic that really initiated an electronic way of learning and education. So how would you first assess the past 9 years in terms of development for the education sector?
Well, nobody can deny such achievements that have already taken place. But before I go on, let me encourage and give a push, even psychologically, to our sons and daughters who are going to sit for the general secondary school exam, the Thanawi Amma, as we call it, to encourage them to have faith in the Lord and to work hard, and they will gain all the fruits they want to have.
Yes. Excuse me, Dr. Ghed.
Sure.
We'll go out for a short break and we'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Sure.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Ghed. Sir, now you were actually talking about secondary education and the Thanawi Amma examinations. Can you please?
Encouraging our daughters and sons to do their best, and they will gain the fruits of their hard work. Back to your question about the achievements during the last 9 years.
Yes.
Actually, I would like to go back about half a century ago, when the late Dr. Taha Hussein started the free education in Egypt, saying that it's like air and water. We cannot do without any of them. So nowadays, education is given due care through the last 9 years, and there are so many achievements. We perceive and achieve And of course, there will be some negative points. But why do we always magnify the negative points and not give due care to the positive points? If there are positive points, let us enforce them to empower the good points in learning. We heard about the applied technological education. That reminds me also of a project that was in education called the Mubarak Call project for the technical education. We should actually revive such projects. And if we have, I have 6 points actually to mention, to have a very good roadmap, well-noted plan to be followed literally. Number 2 is to work hard to achieve and carry out all the items in them. We are not building castles in the air, but we are trying to achieve dreams that all of us look as long cherished dreams, especially in education. And that's the major point the 9-year achievement of the past years focused on. Number 3 is to have a lot of encouragement for the positive points, for the new generation, for the learners, for the teachers, the trainers, they call them, in the technical education and the general education as well, leading them to the university stage. Next is to have an evaluation plan. And in this evaluation plan, of course, we will find negative points to avoid in the future, and we have positive points to emphasize and stress on. Final point I would like to say about the financial point, to encourage and reward the very well efficient trainers, giving them financial rewards, even a sort of certificate for praising their continuous efforts, and this will give them a sort of momentum to continue and follow all what is going on. It depends mainly on the tools given to such people, and we have to set very good curriculum, and I think there are some committees who are specialized for the new curriculum, and gone are the days when the students are only to be bookish. They are now, we have to create thinkers. We live in the age of IT, information technology, and AAT, AI, I'm sorry, artificial intelligence. We have to create thinkers of our learners, these young generation members who are the future of a prosperous country full of great achievements.
Dr. Gad, we will talk a little bit later about teachers and trainers, but now let's talk about the students and undergraduates. What would you say are the main priorities and targets for developing the educational system for the primary schools up until, and the primary education up until university education? Do you think a certain level needs more focus, a primary or secondary or university or technical education, or do you think that it's we should focus on them all, and should we target certain aspects of these sort of academia?
Well, you mentioned that we should focus on them all. I would like to add to what you have just mentioned, is to pick a flower from each orchard. And that will make a very good combination for the students themselves, or the learners. Let me call them the learners. The bookish teaching, learning, as I mentioned earlier, is not the new path that educators now advise to. We had the experiment of the iPad given to free of charge to the students. But it seems that it has some drawbacks, like the no coverage for the internet in remote areas.
Yes.
So what are these poor learners to do with such things? So I think we should give a good percentage, and it has happened now, to the face-to-face learning. The point of interaction between the teacher and the learner, of course, emphasizes all the points targeted to be done. Moreover, let us encourage such learners to have even some small projects. I heard some of the private universities just today that I will not mention the name, but about 8, 9 males and females joined in a project to make use of the second-hand items that we have unnecessarily found in our homes. They mentioned the word karakin,
yes,
which made me laugh, but this is the second-hand, or the rubabikia, shall we say. So they had very good plan to how to recycle them, to how to make some benefit out of them. If we push our learners to have some projects, some presentations to be given, that would be an involvement in the process of teaching, learning ideas that we have nowadays.
Yes. Well, sir, you've mentioned the importance of the teacher or the trainer.
Right.
And the government has really paid a lot of attention to the important role played by a teacher or a trainer. We've seen even last week President Sisi attending a ceremony of examinations and qualification for people working as teachers and trainers and employees at the Ministry of Education. Now, you've mentioned one of the things that would count as an incentive for the teachers, which would be the financial reward. But he also mentioned the tools being given to the teachers. So what sort of tools and preparation and facilities can the teachers have to really enhance their teaching process and their job, which would in turn benefit the learners?
Well, let me mention something I heard recently from one of the PhD scholars who are, actually it's a she researcher, and she couldn't find all the tools and the necessary equipment to be used in her research to prove the theoretical points that she had. And actually, she was shocked when they told her that there is a limit in the budget, no more than such a number. I'm not going to mention exactly what she said. So she said, I reduce the requirement of these tools. These tools actually can be in a simpler way in the secondary and even the prep stage. So the tools will help the learners or the trainees to be using the most up-to-date equipment that could be imported. And this is some of the the budget given to the, not only the applied technological teaching, but for all stages and for all sorts of education. So having the tools, having a curriculum, having a plan will be a triangle that will lead to the tunnel, because we have to let light dwell. Let light dwell in our work.
Yes.
We are not working in darkness. We have to benefit from what others have reached. Let us see what Japanese, Chinese, Germans, whoever in the world have done, and we get what they have already achieved, to not to imitate them, but maybe to complete on them. I'm dead sure that the mentality of many of our learners or trainees is so high, and we have to make full use of this mentality all the way through.
Yes. Well, if we do have a good mentality of trainees, and we can learn from international experiences and know-how and expertise in terms of development of education, how long should we be able to take to be competing within the educational process and the educational life among the international community? I mean, there are 13 or 14 Egyptian universities being regarded as the top in the world. But in order to really work on a complete reformation and restructuring and development of the educational process, what sort of obstacles and challenges should we be able to overcome? Are we talking about financial challenges, infrastructure challenges, talent and development and training of teachers and trainers? What sort of challenges do we still need to overcome?
Well, these challenges are not obscure. They are clear. And we have to diagnose them. We have to analyze, have critical analysis for these challenges. And as I mentioned, to see how the others followed them and applied them. And let me say, not to have something global, that's okay, but to have to localize what we have here. If we study our circumstances, our mentality is a must, of course, for our trainees.
Yes.
But we have to put our fingers in touching the main problems that the student, we have to investigate and do data analysis, and then to certify the different problems and find solutions. And maybe some of the ideas given by those who are given let me say the questionnaires, they may suggest something that should be taken into consideration. I'm so pleased that with the national dialogue that's going on, there are committees to take care of the learning process in general. And their recommendations should be taken seriously. Should be having another committees. We are fond of having committee going out of another committee and committee. But the end result is what we are after all the time. If we take this these results seriously and put our plan on the right path, I think there is light at the end of the road.
Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it's not just about building and educating the future generations of our society, but also during COP27, which is the climate change conference that took place November last year in Sharm el-Sheikh, they also pinpointed the importance of the educational sector in terms of climate action and combating climate change. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.